konektor mluvený. If I may ask you to take a seat again, get back from the bar, and drink your beer here. Please. Okay. So in the meantime, I've had a quick chat with Seznam guys, and Lukáš will have a nice lightning talk right after Radek. We will see what will be the topic, but looking forward for that. And now, without further ado, let's have a nice talk from Radek about our life in Africa.
Our streaming in Africa is hard. As you can see, this is a speed test. It's not a speed test like the other one that you can make every day. This is a speed test from our servers in Africa, in Johannesburg, in South Africa. As you can see, the latency is quite high, the speed is quite low, but still the results are okay. When it comes that it's like, I don't know, 15,000 kilometers in total by fiber. Let's switch to presentation. I'm Radek Zajac. I'm with Showmax, and today we are going to talk about streaming in Africa, which is hard. I will tell you why is it hard, and what did we encounter in the past few years trying to stream in Africa. So let's start with Showmax. I guess you've heard about Showmax because you are here on this meetup. But if you haven't, Showmax is like, as you can see, it's White Lotus. It's like the HBO Max, or the N-word that we are not supposed to say. It's the same platform. Like from the user's perspective, you can browse the catalog, you can watch live streams, you can watch VOD. It works the same. It's just sometimes different colors. But that's Showmax, video on demand for Africa. And by Africa, I mean Africa, the purple part, or pink part. We serve customers across Africa, like all the sub-Saharan Africa, mostly. And we also have the blue countries covered. And blue countries are covered in a way that if you move away from Africa to Australia, to Europe, Western Europe mostly, to United Kingdom, to Norway, you can stream some of the Showmax content. We call those users diaspora users because they are spread across the world. But our main focus is on Africa. And yeah, it's like more in detail. There are some small countries that we don't really see here, but we'll get to them. We have a few countries that we care the most. These are in orange. It's like the South Africa, down there on the south. Then we are focused on Kenya a lot. We have quite a lot of Kenyan users. We are focused on Nigeria and Ghana, and the most important country is Mauritius, the small island which is far from everywhere, which makes streaming extremely hard. So let's think about the locations of our infrastructure, and we'll get back to why is it important later. So Showmax originated in 2015 with a lot of infrastructure in Germany, in the Hetzner provider. We have a lot of legacy infrastructure there, quite a lot of storages, mezzanine storages, and the packages, which are important for streaming. We have infrastructure in Johannesburg in a rented DC space. We have storages, CDN, and packages there. The same goes for Cape Town, which is on the other side of the country. By the way, from Johannesburg to Cape Town, it's 1,500 kilometers. And can you guess what the latency is between the two data centers? 300 is from here to Johannesburg is 220. So between the two data centers in South Africa, it's 15 to 20 milliseconds, just within one country. Then we have a lot of infrastructure, or we have infrastructure in the cloud, in this case in Cape Town, in AWS. We have APIs, some regional caches in there. And we have APIs and a lot of databases and other infrastructure in London in AWS. So now seeing those countries like Germany, United Kingdom, and South Africa, and getting back to this wide coverage, it looks like it will be challenging, and it is. When we started working with the infrastructure in Africa, we thought, okay, world is connected, so it's easy, right? There are quite a lot of fiber cables on the continent, or around the continent, everywhere. And it kind of works well, but it's quite far. It's really far. It's 220 milliseconds. That's from my computer at home to the Johannesburg servers. I guess it's the same server that I was running the speed test on at the beginning. So it is slow. The latency is high. The stability, well, it's hard. So let's get to the CDNs, because that's what what helps you when you stream content around the world. Can you guess how many CDNs do we have? Is it more than 10? 6? Another tip? 12. Okay. 24. 42, anyone? No, it's 4. It's 4. We have 4 CDNs, or we are using 4 CDNs, or are working with 4 CDNs currently. We use Akamai, we use Limelight, we use Fastly, or we are working with Fastly to get them on board. And we have our own CDN. I've placed the brand here because that's the CDN, the Showmax CDN. When it comes to those external CDNs, not the Showmax CDN, it looks like they are everywhere except for Africa. So you can see I've made the circles around the territories that we cover most: South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and Mauritius, obviously. Akamai is everywhere, but well, they are not so performing. It's like low cache hit, quite low cache hit ratio. So we've decided we will get to play with another CDNs. So the Limelight, which has rebranded to Agile since we started using them. I don't know why those companies are rebranding all the time. They are on Mauritius, they are in Kenya. It took them like 2 years to get to Kenya. They were promising us that they will get to Kenya soon, and it took 2 years. So that's how long does it take to soon? In South Africa, in Johannesburg, and they are in Nigeria, but they are not in Ghana. When it comes to Fastly, they are just building point of presence in Kenya. Everybody is building POPs in Kenya because these countries are really the most important. When it comes to, when you compare the coverage maps to Akamai, you can see that they have way less countries covered, and that's because the infrastructure in Africa it's really hard to build it. It takes a while. Sometimes someone needs to be bribed and stuff. No, that's joking. We don't bribe anyone. Really. So I highlighted, we didn't bribe anyone at all in the past years. I have highlighted one more country on the picture, Poland. Showmax was in Poland from 2017 to 2019 for 2 years. And we've had quite a lot of CDN infrastructure in Poland. We have left Poland, so it's like the past. I've highlighted Nigeria and I've highlighted Kenya because we've had the CDNs in those countries as well. So let's recap when and how did we have. So in the beginning, Showmax started in 2015, and since 2016, the CDN was deployed to Kenya and South Africa. In 2017, Poland and Nigeria were added. Poland had a very special separate catalog and everything, but still. In 2018, we have left Nigeria, so it didn't last long. And by the way, while trying to get the infrastructure from there, it kind of happened that we didn't get 2 servers back, ever. We don't know what happened to those servers. It's like we've asked the ISP that these servers were hosted in. They were never in production. We never made it. Sometimes at one moment, the VPN stopped working and we couldn't get to those servers even. So we don't know what happened to those servers. Maybe someone's using them as storage today. Texas, yeah, maybe. Let's talk about Texas later. What did we pay for moving Poland servers to Africa? We've left Poland in 2019, and we've used this infrastructure to beef up South Africa. We've moved the servers there. I will have some nice pictures. How did it look like to move servers across the continent? And in 2020, we've decided to leave Kenya as well, because the costs of running the hardware there, the costs of getting connectivity with a decent capacity was really high, and it made sense to switch to different CDNs, like Akamai and Limelight. So the origin servers and the packages are in Germany still. We've deployed mid-tier storages in South Africa in 2017. And today we are moving the storages to South Africa because it makes sense to move the content as close to the user as possible because the connectivity is not really reliable. And for the external CDNs in 2015, we've added Akamai. It's for VOD and later for live. In 2020, we've added Limelight for VOD. And now we are working with Limelight and Fastly to get live enabled as well. Let's see how it works, if it works. By the way, Fastly has a great configuration language. If you ever used Varnish, Fastly is like all about VCLs. So leaving Kenya and Nigeria might open the question, why did we do so? We've started to measure how the external CDNs, our own and our CDN performs. And we've figured out that for those countries, the performance was quite similar. The network is really bad in both countries. Especially Nigeria. Well, Kenyans have fiber as well, but Kenyans have fiber, but in Nigeria it's like 3G and LTE today. So we figured out that it makes sense to use external CDNs and to get rid of the old hardware that we would have to rebuild anyway in those countries. And it didn't make sense to keep them. But for South Africa, the South African CDN that we've had there, it really is outperforming Akamai, Limelight, and perhaps even Fastly when it comes to video-on-demand content. Like we get quite high cache hit ratio, like twice or almost three times what we see on Akamai. We get the cache hit ratio on our CDN. So the CDN, how did it look like when we've moved the servers from Poland to South Africa? The servers had an intermediate stop at the Showmax office in Prague. So this is how it looked like when we've packed all of these. A colleague is like waiting for the last server to be taken away by, I guess it was PPL or whatever company. DHL, sorry, DHL. Thanks, Mirek. Mirek spent a lot of time talking to DHL to get the servers to South Africa. And this is how it looked like when the servers arrived in Cape Town. On the left side, you can see that the pallet down there is like kind of broken, sort of. By the way, it took 6 months to get from Prague to Cape Town and Johannesburg. Most of the time, like three months, was it waiting on customs and clearing the taxes stuff. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we didn't like for them. So we don't know what happened to those servers for the past or for the 6 months. We didn't see them, but eventually the servers reached their destinations in Cape Town and Johannesburg, and we had a few colleagues. One of them should have been here and isn't because he felt sick a bit after today's training, the whole day training. But they've installed the servers in person in Cape Town, so it was fun. Another story that we have. When we were leaving Nigeria and Kenya, one of the questions was how to get the infrastructure out of the countries if you don't have any server boxes that you can place the servers in. So we've ended up talking to some local people that built those wooden boxes for us. The servers are in those wooden boxes and were shipped from the countries to South Africa. It's interesting what you can get on African market, and it was really cheap. It was way cheaper than getting boxes to the country, like the paper boxes. I wanted to show you the picture of the DCs, but then I thought it might not really be compliant with security and stuff. So this is our lab. It's very close to how it looks like in the real DC. The servers look like the same. It's like a lot of fiber and metal cables, switches, a lot of fast connections, 10 gigs, 100 gigs and stuff. Oh. So this is how it looks like. Now you might be thinking, how do we actually manage those 4 CDNs or 3 CDNs when it comes to VOD? And for this, we have something that we call multi-CDN. How does it work? We have a player, and the player is talking to a component that we call playback. Playback knows to which CDN the customer should be sent, so the playback sends the customer to that specific CDN. And the player then streams from that CDN, and it's like the regular streaming when you download something from the internet. It's with the chunk streaming. This is all what you know most probably. If you have opened the developer console in your browser, but at the same time, the player is sending events to our data warehouse, and the data warehouse just crunches the data, and like once a day currently, the result is spit out, and the playback consumes it, and then the playback uses it to decide what CDN is the best for which customer. Obviously, if we need some learning period, so we have 3 hours. We have 3 hours in the morning, and in the morning we send customers to all the CDNs to collect as much performance data as possible and validate that what we have from the past days and weeks is still valid. So that's multi-CDN. Is this easy? Maybe on some future meetup we can talk about that as well. Now, the lessons learned from running CDNs and infrastructure in Africa. Not all CDNs are equal. Like in this percentage of the VOD data served from cache, Akamai is around 35%, what we see long term. With Limelight, it's more than 70%. And with our own CDN, it's more than 96% of VOD data being served from the caches, which is a huge difference because then the amount of data that you have to serve from the origins in case of Akamai is really, really way higher. Then you want to pick the right CDN for customers based on their country and ISPs and previous failures, because not all CDNs are in every country, and this is really valid in Africa. In Europe, you can see that the CDNs are in every country. In major ISPs, there is a good connectivity in the country or to the neighboring countries. That's not really the case of Africa. And if you are too big, you will exhaust the capacity of any external CDN or even your CDN sooner or later, because it grows, the whole market grows a lot. The CDN traffic sometimes is routed in a way that you wouldn't expect. Like Akamai was sending Mauritius customers to South Africa. Remember, Mauritius is very far from everywhere. Limelight was sending our customers to Europe or even the United States. And the last case that we've seen in December was when Akamai had CDNs in South Africa. We've had origin servers in South Africa, but Akamai decided that they want to route the requests via London and Mumbai and Hong Kong back to South Africa. It wasn't great. A lot. So again, not all undersea cables are equal. On the western coast, we call them not great. It looked different in the first version of the presentation. On the east side, the cables are quite okay, and we prefer them, or actually the infrastructure is built for our like transit providers, is built in a way that these are preferred, sometimes unstable, like it happens that cables fail, and if the cables fail, they fail. Can you guess what this is? 4-2. Any guess? Is it a sports match result? Could it be? Kind of. So this is something that we've seen in December as well. We've had 4 fiber cuts in 2 countries in one evening during the World Cup. Amazing. I can guarantee you that if you wanted to place a bet in Saska Sport Car or whatever, this is less likely than winning the first prize. But it happened. It's happening all the time. You just usually don't see it, or it just takes a few hours, and the traffic reroutes somehow, and people suffer from bad streaming, of course, nothing else. And networking sometimes randomly fails. This is what we call a bloodbath. It's basically a matrix when you try to ping from one location to another location, and then you plot it on the chart, and it looks like this when the networking fails. Blue is okay. Anything else is packet loss, high latency, something that you don't want to see. And what you don't want to see the most is when it becomes red. So when it becomes this red, again, it's more like the service is not really working because there are timeouts everywhere, and you can't fix this easily, especially if you have CDNs in Africa and origins in Europe, for example. Then the connectivity doesn't work and the service doesn't really play any stream. Sometimes the paths can change, like on this picture. As you can see, the greenish line suddenly jumps up, and down there's a packet loss. It just starts going up again. That is a case when one of the cables failed and traffic got rerouted. Suddenly the path was way longer, reliability was worse, and the service didn't work as well as we expected. This is between South Africa and Kenya, by the way. So that's like in or on the continent, not to Europe. Often what we see is that the traffic is routed via Europe. In Europe, again, when you connect from Czech Republic to London, for example, your path will most likely be through Germany and Amsterdam to London. The countries are connected very well. In Africa, if you talk to the CDN in South Africa from a network in, let's say, Nigeria or Ghana, you will often go via Europe. In the best case, it will go via Lisbon. In the worst case, it will even turn around in Frankfurt or Amsterdam or London. And it's happening for all destinations. On the left side, it's our CDN. On the right side, it's Limelight. And you would get the same for Akamai. In some countries, peering is a thing, but it's a new thing. So, for example, Kenya has an exchange point with the peak of 110 gigabits per second. The same for Ghana. And Nigeria, it's like 340 gigabits per second. And they have 200 million people in the country. So if you compare it to South Africa, where they have two different exchange points, like more exchange points, but two different, let's say, organizations running them, the largest one is the Namp Africa with 2.8 terabits per second. So 300 gigabits per second in Nigeria is, well, there's a lot of room for improvements. Then some ISPs do very weird things. So they redirect HTTP requests to capture portals, and you see those as failed playbacks. Sometimes you figure out why doesn't the stream play, and then you see that there was some content injected in the HTTP page. We'll get back to why do we need HTTP later. So other ISPs do other weird things, like they sell you unlimited 4G, and it's like unlimited data, whatever, but you only have basic quality streaming. What does it mean? It's like 1 megabits per second for streaming. And they are using so aggressive throttling approaches so that the streams don't really play. Some devices do weird things. Sometimes some devices don't have enough computing power for HTTPS. So we have some special devices for which we don't use HTTPS. Sometimes HTTPS works well, but only supports TLS 1.0 or 1.1. So we still have to support those old and deprecated and protocols because our customers are still using it. It's Africa. Sometimes HTTPS works well, unless it's HTTP 2. It's like with some TVs. Hello, Samsung. Anyone from Samsung around? We had to build a special API endpoint just for the Samsung TVs to use HTTP 1.1 over HTTPS because it didn't work really well. Some browsers and CDNs do weird things, like sometimes the protocols just break because still a lot of protocols are in draft. We've had Quick enabled on Akamai. Chrome released a new version. There was some incompatibility. All the Akamai customers with Quick, which was enabled by default, by the way, on Akamai, and we didn't know back then, suddenly couldn't play anything because, well, the protocol incompatibility. So whenever upgraded their Chrome browser, ended up with our service failing, and the blame was on us, not Akamai, not Chrome, always. So even the cloud is different. In Africa, not all services are available in AWS Cape Town compared to, let's say, London or United States or Ireland. Sometimes it's way more expensive. If you send traffic from Cape Town to other AWS regions, you pay 7 times the price you would pay for the same type of traffic leaving London. It's like 2 cents versus 15 cents per each gigabyte. Way more expensive. So the key takeaways, sorry. If you want to have a good streaming service in Africa, what works best for us is to keep the origins and the CDNs on the continent so that it's as close to the customer as possible. Mix as many CDNs as you can and measure which one is best for your customer and serve the best one, because it really depends on in which country, in which network the customer is. Sometimes the quality of the connectivity is really broad. So we have customers on slow GSM or ADSL. Others are on really fast 5G or fiber. Even fiber, and fiber is a thing in Africa. If you live in large cities, it is quite fast. It is reliable, but still there are lots of customers using GSM and UMTS. TLS 1.0 and 1.1 and all devices in general are not your enemy. You have to live with them, and you have to make friends with them. And sometimes you have to be really beware of the weird ISP practices, because you never know when the ISP will try to hijack your connection, and they will do so at one point or another. And the cloud is different. And the overall takeaway from this is Africa is really challenging. And that was it. Time for questions.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I want to ask about the slide with CDN's cache miss ratio. I think it was slide 23. Do you have any prevailing theory? Why is that?
Yes. When it comes to Limelight, they are new on the continent. Akamai is like everywhere. So a lot of companies are using Akamai. And obviously, you only have so much space that you can use for storing the content that you cache. And you have to divide it between different customers. Akamai is really great when it comes to live streaming. So we get like 99.9% data served from cache when it comes to live streaming. But VOD, if you have a large catalog, and we have a large catalog, and a lot of, we call it long tail content, so that's the content that's like hidden somewhere and someone searches for it and plays one of the 2,800 parts of Binnenlanders, for example, then you get to serve it. But on Akamai side, there's not much space for storing and then caching this type of content. So that's our theory.
And we even can see that Limelight cache hit ratio is dropping down slowly, but it is as they are onboarding new services. We can see that. And there is nothing what we can do about it.
Except building more CDNs and using more CDNs.
Thank you. Hi. Why did you leave Poland after like 2 years? Seems really short period of time from the long run.
I guess that's more like a business question. It looks like the expectations didn't meet the overall income numbers. So it wasn't, there was no technical reason for doing so. It was a business decision.
Anyone else? Really?
Should you start a CDN in Africa?
If you have customers in Africa, yes.
I'm saying, should you start a CDN in Africa?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh,
your own CDN company.
I don't know. I wouldn't do so. It's like, you know, you have to know a lot of local people in different countries, and it's not easy for one person. I don't think we need, like, we have a lot of companies that are doing CDNs across the world, and the large ones are seeing the potential of having new CDN points of presence in Africa. So the competition would be really tough.
Any question?
And do you know something about IPv6 and ISPs in Africa?
Yes, a lot. So the thing is that Africa has a lot of ISPs, like small ones. They use a lot of devices like MikroTiks, and the MikroTik devices aren't great with IPv6 when it comes to connecting customers and IP over Ethernet. But the regional registry, like we have RIPE NCC for Europe, in Africa it's Afrinic, is running quite a lot of webinars and like training programs for training all the ISP technicians on deploying IPv6. They are actively promoting IPv6. By the way, we have received the first request from an ISP to IPv6 enable our CDNs in 2019, January or so. So there are customers, there are ISPs, customers using IPv6, ISPs providing IPv6 in South Africa and Kenya mostly. In the other countries, not really. Yet, it will come.
And the first request was actually from Kenya and not from South Africa, which was surprising for us.
You have mentioned that you are, well, still using HTTP without the S. Are you somehow trying to benefit from the possibility of caching this content anywhere on the road, like with some Squid or something like that?
I guess we haven't really investigated if this is happening.
Like, we know that some ISPs are caching it on the path, but to rely on them somehow from our end, that's not the case. Because usually when someone is caching it on the path, the performance actually degrades when compared to our servers and our connectivity. And they are even trying to cache stuff over HTTPS.
Doesn't work. Well,
yeah, it doesn't work. But we've seen that.
Can you just somehow describe how much did you not bribe to get the CDNs there?
we didn't bribe anyone.
Okay. And okay. I rephrase the question. Do you know about any case of the bribe in South Africa that happened, and how big was it?
Not under our watch. It might have happened, but we don't know. We've sent a lot of emails, I guess. Was it emails to different authorities to figure out what is happening with the service and customs processing, but no bribing. Really, trust me.
We are those who pay the taxes instead.
We've paid a lot of taxes to get the service to South Africa.
Like what Radek mentioned but didn't spoke about it, for the servers in Poland, we had to pay European taxes, and when we were shipping them to South Africa, we had to pay again the income taxes, so those servers were actually double taxed. Still cheaper than to buy a new one, but kind of complicated stuff.
It was a new experience, shipping service across continents.
Continents. Secure, yeah. Any other question? No questions from Seznam. Really?
So I've seen that Showmax had Seznam had a great CDN performance. Was it today with the presidential debate?
And that's actually the lightning that Lukáš will have.
Oh, okay. So let's get to that then.
Yes.
So thank you very much for coming.
So, one last, and That's actually one of the nicest things that I've ever imagined about this meetup, that there will be someone else speaking about CDN from the other company, and that's Lukáš from Seznam. And he'll have a short lightning talk about today's performance of presidential debate that happened on Novinky, and it broke some records, internal records of Seznam. So thank you, Lukáš.
Thank you very much. I'm from seznam.cz, and we stream some real-time videos from novinky.cz, and this is the traffic from our morning when we stream presidential candidates battle, and we reach our record for 445 gigabits from our data centers. And how we did it? We used 2 data centers from our traffic outside to the NIC's infrastructure, and from our data center is 200 gigabits line that we have together 400 gigabits, and from our core routers to spine level in each data center is 200 gigabits too. And how we reached for more than 400 gigabits, then we have only 400 gigabits lines. Really? It's that we used the external CDN system called Front from AVS, and we move some traffic to outside from our data centers, and that we reach this nice number. And it's a summary from all of our lines, like NICS, Transit, and CloudFront. It's a really nice work with this system, because our normal traffic is about 90 gigabits, and this is more than five more than your daily traffic, and you have to manage it, and it's funny work with this.
First question from me. Was everything working as expected, or was there some problem?
Yeah, there were little problem between our core routers and the spine lines. We have 200 gigabits, and we saturated this because the graph was really steep, and we didn't catch the right point to move more traffic outside from data centers, that we saturated both data centers, both 200 gig lines. But during this year, we would like to upgrade this front level to 800 gigabits from each data center, that together 1.6 terabits, it's good for us.
Nice. And the switch to AWS, that's manual or automated?
It's manual work with DNS, because all our services has its own DNS record, and you can manage the backend for them. It's very nice to move traffic to another backends or edge levels. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Any other?
Thanks. Hey, Michael here. So I wanted to ask, since you were monitoring this, first of all, did you expect this, that it would happen? And the second would be when you noticed it's climbing this steep, like how long did you have to actually start the switch? And when it went like to the okay level, when you said, okay, we're gonna handle this.
Okay. We expected this because our product manager told us that we have this discussion today, and we were prepared for this. And the time for switching is very short, yeah, because you have some delay from edge level metrics you have now, but when you see them, you have some delay in Grafana, for example, yeah. And the switching you must predict and hey, this is the right time. And I think today we did it very well, but we know that we had short lines, yeah, between these 2 points, yeah, as I said. Yeah.
Was it like minutes, hours?
The switching is during the minutes, yeah.
So I have one. Before the debate, the baseline was 100 gigabits per second. At the end, it's 200 gigabits per second. Do you know why is that? Why is it like double? Have you inspected it?
It means when the graph is going down,
yeah,
they stop the live streaming, and at this time, it's normally video on demand. And some people take who came during the discussion, they can seek to the last point and see the video again. Yeah, that I think this is the
like watching the video like delayed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you know what they were saying when there is a peak, the biggest one?
Especially the one down.
Is it politically correct?
I don't know, it's okay.
It's technically correct.
Yeah.
Any other?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lukáš. Thank you all. Thank you to all the speakers, especially Lukáš, who wasn't even expecting that and came from Brno. And Seznam. I cannot describe how awesome it is that we are here today, because originally this was just pub idea that we will connect the companies who are streaming in Czech. So let me thank you all for attending and looking forward for the next talks. I hope that next time the other companies who weren't speaking yet will speak. And thank you, Showmax, for organizing that, because thanks. And Andy. Go for the bar.